and welcome to this highly anticipated Guyana 2025 post-budget discussion. Tonight, we dive deep into the nation's historical trillion-dollar budget and explore how it aims to continue to shape our country's future. This budget is not just a fiscal document. The budget, themed a secure and prosperous sustainable Guyana, is a blueprint for the development of our economy, our society, and the lives of every Guyanese. I am Marcia Hope, your host. To help us unpack the plans, priorities, and promises contained within the budget, we are privileged to have on set a distinguished panel of government ministers who are at the helm of crafting and implementing these policies. With us, we have the Honorable Prime Minister, Brigadier Mark Phillips. And with us as well, we have Dr. the Honorable Vindhya Persaud, Minister of Human Services and Social Security. She will detail provisions aimed at improving the lives of our most Guyanese citizens. Tonight's discussion is about cutting through the numbers to understand how this budget impacts you, the citizens of Guyana. We will uncover how the fiscal measures are set to drive Guyana's forward. Let's get started. Prime Minister and Dr. Vindhya Persaud, thank you very much for joining us.
And thank you for having me on your program, Marcia.
Good evening, Marcia. We're happy to be here to
Thank you
unpack Budget 2025 with you.
Yes, we're talking trillion-dollar budget. Never in our wildest dreams growing up we would have thought we would have had a trillion-dollar budget. What are your thoughts about having a trillion-dollar budget, Prime Minister?
Well, this is a second $1 trillion budget, and as you quite rightly mentioned, it is something new. That's a new trend. It's not going to go back to billions of dollars in our budget. It's going to be trillion, 1 point something, and who knows, as we grow over the years, it's going to become 2 or 3 point something trillion. It's all about growth. It's all about development. It's all about shared prosperity, to put it in a nutshell. And as you quite rightly mentioned, the theme of the budget is secure, prosperous, and sustainable Guyana. That is the budget 2025.
Budget 2025 speaks of trillions of dollars, but I think the average Guyanese would like to know how the trillions of dollars impact on their lives. And I think it is a credit that this government has sought to make it a multifaceted budget that has tangible impact on the lives of everyone. If we speak of development, the budget speaks to that in a very strategic way, ensuring that development is linked also to human capacity building and the transformational impact it will have on the lives from the child to the senior. And I know you probably want to hear it from my sector in that sense. And so when I look at elements of the budget, I see something that really speaks to me, and that it's very family centric. Within that family construct, it focuses on children in particular. In fact, I remember when Minister Singh made mention of the $100,000 that everyone who gets a new baby this year will get. The whole house erupted, because who would have thought you were going to be incentivized? But then think about it. If a family invests that money and they keep doing that every month and all year through, in just maybe 4 to 5 years, you have about close to $4 million stacked up there for that child who was born in 2025. So it speaks to how you invest your money. It speaks to how government overall is investing the trillions of dollars that we speak of, and doing it in such a way that we're not heavily focused on injecting in the budget much more than a little bit over 30% from the oil revenue, for example. So I just mentioned newborns, but what about the children? The Because We Care cash grant is a commitment delivered. When government committed to increasing the cash grant, we've hit that $50,000 mark. In fact, if you add the $5,000 for the uniforms, it's $55,000 per child. Then if you look at what it means to the senior citizens, and here's where you speak directly to the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, our seniors have a commitment fulfilled. When we came in 2020, it was $20,500, and there was a commitment to double that. And we have done that this evening with Minister Singh's measures being announced, and now the senior citizen out there could easily say, well, this PPPC government has delivered $41,000 to seniors. And when people talk about it, they say $41,000, it's non-contributory. It is all based on the fact that you hit 65 years old. It's not means tested. So whether you speak of the child or the senior or everyone in between that, there's something for someone. And I'm sure that over the course of this discussion, you will have to ask, or you will probably mention, the increase in the income tax threshold. And then not only the overall increase that captures a wide net of people, but it also speaks that how our government thinks about rewarding hard work, incentivizing hard work, because not only are you benefiting from your singular employment opportunity, if you decide to add on a second job, you're benefiting from that. If you decide to work longer hours, you're benefiting from overtime. All of that cumulatively adds up to your overall income tax threshold benefit. So I think it is very meticulously crafted, and a lot of it speaks to Guyanese having savings, having more disposable income, and that is the recurring trend when you speak of the 2025 budget.
And definitely, it is a people-centered budget, because whilst we speak to the individuals, the businesses are also in for benefits as well. PM, you want to share with us how the businesses will benefit as well?
Well, the businesses will benefit from a lot of the tax breaks, right? Or, that is included in this budget. If you're a gold miner, right, you already know with your equipment, and so we've removed taxes. So you could purchase your equipment, you can mine your gold. Of course, you have to pay your royalties and everything on your production, right? So that itself had led over the years, and we have to go back for when we came into office, what we met when we came into office in August 2020. We met a system in disarray, the whole economic system, the whole business community, right? Business activities. And immediately what we had to do was to remove many of the, what I would call, regressive and depressive tax measures that were in place to reinvigorate the business community. So we have a business community, not starting with this budget, but starting with the 2020 budget. I had called it an emergency budget when it was presented in 2020. And what we've had is sustained growth in the business community and sustained policy measures aimed at improving how businesses are conducted in Guyana, right? What this has led to? This has led to foreign investments, and I'm not talking about foreign direct investment here, I'm talking about domestic investment. Many of the business people who were disgruntled, disillusioned, they got back into business because of the incentivization measures and the policies of our government. You would have heard it in more detail from Dr. Ashley Sting, not only in his budget speech today, but in some of his previous presentations. So the business community has benefited. This is a budget for everyone in Guyana. Everybody in Guyana has benefited from this budget, even from the smallest child. And I'll go further to say even from the unborn, because there's a measure in the budget that if you bring a child into this world, for every newborn child a Guyanese mother will start their life by earning $100,000 as a one-off payment. For every child in the home, you heard Dr. Vindhya mention about the cash grant, which incidentally was started by a previous PPPC government when we had no oil revenue. And you can recall the first payment in 2014 was $10,000, right? And then I want people to recall also that we had a change of government, and for 5 years, 2015 to when we resume political office in 2020, there was no payment of that cash grant. Whenever it came up in the budget debates, people were told that there was no fiscal space. The PPPC get back into office after the 2020 elections. Of course, this is another story. We waited for a long time after winning the elections. And what we did with that emergency budget, we replaced the Because We Care. And we move it to $15,000. We restarted with $15,000. And it has grown from $15,000 to now, as Dr. Vindhya mentioned, $50,000 in 2025 budget. That is a promise that we made to the people. We campaigned and we told them we will restart it and we will ensure it increase, and it will reach 50,000 in 2025. Promise delivered. We deliver on that promise. There's so many other promises that we made to the people. When we came into office, the income tax threshold was $65,000. We have doubled that by increasing it every year, and in this budget it is now $130,000. We've doubled it. So here is a government that has made promises to the people in its manifesto, and in a sustained manner, we have designed policies, we have implemented our programs to ensure that the people benefited in a sustained manner over the 5 years that we're in office. So if you look across the board, a lot of the taxation measures was reduced, and there are many allowances, many incentives, many cash grants, right, and other payments that are made to people, which has resulted in people having more money, more disposable income, more money in their pockets, so to speak, to spend. And at the same time, we've crafted policies to contain inflation. So the bottom line, there has been a real increase in the disposable income available to the average Guyanese out there.
Yes, inflation is a concern by many. What are some of the initiatives government has on the table to manage inflation in this country?
Well, it's not what they have on the table, it's what we've already done and continue to be doing in Guyana, right? You could recall, for example, energy. Energy has a multiplier effect. The price of gasoline, the price of dieseline, the price of kerosene oil that some people used to cook with still, and cooking gas, it went up by an average 65% on the world market. What did the government do? The government removed all the taxes from the importation of all petroleum oils and lubricant. We removed all the taxes. We went so far with GPL, we instructed GPL not to increase any rates, right? The electricity rates remain the same as it was when we took over. You continue to pay the same electricity rates, but the government provided the money. Over some $100 billion were provided from 2020 to now to ensure that GPL continue to pay for the fossil fuel, right? Whether it is HFC, right? You know, or whatever fuel they may use to run their generators in throughout the regions, right, and throughout the Mar-Borbis interconnected system. We provided the money to cushion those increases in fuel prices. We didn't pass it on to the people. So we have a situation in Guyana where people are paying the same rates for electricity that they've been paying before we came into office in 2020. We've removed the tax that old age pensioners would have been paying on electricity and on water and all these things and so. So you pay the same water rates. In fact, the water rates went down, right? There's been no increase in electricity rates, no increase in water rates. We've removed all the repressive taxations and many of the fees. We had a case where the man with a horse-drawn cart, his fee was increased by the last government. All right? Imagine that. A man eking out a living with a horse-drawn cart had to pay, see his fee increase from some $1,500 to some, I think, $8,000. We have removed all those fees. So everybody can now make a living and have more disposable income by our measures that we put in place in a sustained manner over the 5 years that we've been in office.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Minister, in your area, with the unprecedented size of budget that you have, how can we see the benefits of that budget being translated to the people?
Well, I think Prime Minister has made a very good point in that the budget is so inclusive because most of the measures include every member of the population. When you get down into a sector, we look at some of the vulnerable populations, like the human services sector. So the pensioners to start with, the overall budget of this ministry would have increased by $12 billion. So the pensioners or senior citizens, they get a hefty chunk of that. And once they are getting that increase in the pension, we also have to look at service delivery, for example. And those were the things that we put into place from the time we got into government. How do people access their pension? Direct deposit to the bank, shut-in delivery for those who are bedridden or those who have mobility issues. We also looked at alternate venue payments, how you cash your coupons, even using MMG, looking at direct payments into hinterland remote communities. So ease of access too is also very important. And then the additional benefits that our seniors would have, not only the removal of taxes, but the subsidies for electricity and water. Those were things that were replaced. Those were things that were added on to what pensioners would have gotten in addition to their pension. And those are very important things. When you add all of that up, it really helps someone in their regular day-to-day activity, in their regular lives. And then we also looked at the voucher that was brought on through the Ministry of Health. Even prior to that, this ministry was running the eye care program. So with all of these things, now pensioners could have free eye tests, spectacles paid for, most of their spectacles paid for. This ministry also does programs focusing on assistive aids, which would benefit not only the pensioner, but persons who live with disabilities, free wheelchairs, free walkers, free white canes, free hearing aids. And so the idea is to ensure that there is an improved quality of life for all of these vulnerable populations. And speaking of persons living with disabilities, there was an unprecedented move by this government to give heavy attention to those persons. There was the opening of the Learning Lab not so long ago, and that Learning Lab would have seen persons who live with disabilities access free technical vocational training, not only the free training, but have access to a revolving fund where those persons continue to benefit from funds directly given through the government revolving fund to start their own business, entrepreneurial ventures. We also look at how persons living with disabilities can benefit from the increase. And we saw another increase this evening where $22,000 would be what persons who look for assistance receive through the public assistance programs, through the permanent disability programs. So I think the budget looks at really, really meeting people when they need it most. And government over the period of time from 2020 to now responded to whatever the crisis was. We had a very strong response to the COVID-19 crisis. Then we had a series of cash transfers to deal with what was happening at the said time. If there were floods, that was dealt with. If there was COVID, that was dealt with. Then you looked at the $100,000 cash grant that people, every citizen, 18 years and above will receive. Now, so what government has been doing is not only sticking to the conventional methods of ensuring people benefit, but also looking at the additive measures that would cushion the impact from things as Prime Minister discussed, like inflation. We also look at how women, another very big population, can benefit and have been benefiting through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, for example, through the WIN program. How does the WIN program impact? Free training, accessible through in-person methods or virtually. Then that should translate into the development of entrepreneurial ventures. Then we look at the care economy, getting women to open their own daycare, night care, early childhood centers, giving them a subsidy to do that, making sure that children who have parents who are on the front lines in the early days, or parents who are working, paying for their child to go to registered and licensed daycare. So these are very, very impactful measures, because let's say now there is a lady who will take advantage of what was mentioned in the budget. She wants to have her regular job, she wants to have the additional job that was mentioned, or she wants to work overtime. Now she can do that, benefit from the have the tax benefit, and then also be able to leave her child or children in a safe and secure place. So it all ties in with what we are trying to do through the integration of every sector, ensuring that with that kind of integration, each person feels the impact of what this budget will bring to them. So if you look at how we are working with young people, developing youth-friendly spaces, looking at juveniles at risk, having those programs to cater for it, building a new institution that looks at young people at risk and people who are in a first-time contact with the law, how we can ensure they get a second chance, looking at how we tackle gender-based violence. And one of the things this budget does, I would like to say it's a building block budget. Our government did not go and we were overly dramatic. What we did, we built a solid foundation using everything started from 2020 all the way to now, to take us to a point where we are steadily, and that's something I would like to say is associated with this government: consistency, steadiness, and ensuring that with every injection there is a focus on something that is targeted for improvement. For example, coming into the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, I mentioned WIN. When the Ghana Women's Leadership Institute was visited by me, nothing was happening there. Nothing was being delivered. It was a building that was in total disrepair. If you go there now, it's a modern facility. It churns out all of these courses and programs. More than that, people who benefit from them. If we look at the night shelter, when I went there were very few people there. It's almost to full capacity. And we are improving that. That's looking at homeless and indigent populations. They're now going to benefit from a brand new kitchen. And so it is not only the infrastructure, it's the people who will benefit from all of these additions that we have going on throughout the various sectors, and overall being improved through the various allocations of the budget. Coming into this ministry, there was no allotment for gender-based violence. Now we have millions of dollars. There was no allotment directly to trafficking in persons. And we didn't only look at the budgetary allotment, we look at the legislative framework. A slew of legislations would have been dealt with over our last 4 years. So Budget 2025 gives us all the opportunity to look back and also to project forward, looking at the things that are mentioned in the theme, ensuring that there is security, ensuring that there is inclusive prosperity, and at all times really, really standing up to honor our commitments that we would have given in our manifesto. We've never strayed from that. We have never said in 100 days we'll do this and we haven't done it. In fact, in many cases, we would have exceeded many of the commitments that we would have made.
Well, Marcy, before you move on to another question, you know, I'm old school, so when Dr. Ashley Singh during his budget speech was listing the measures, I made note of some of those measures. And if you permit me,
yes, sir.
I have my notebook here. I'll go
ahead,
through some
sir.
of the measures. Very important, reduction in electricity costs. We promised the people on completion of the gas to energy project, where we will be producing 300 megawatts of additional electricity, we will reduce the cost by 50%. And in his measure, he did announce a reduction, household, commercial, and industrial rates, right? Gonna be reduced by 50%. The other one that he mentioned, the abolition of bridge tolls on the completion of those bridges that we're building. You know, we're building a bridge across the Demerara River. In fact, two bridges across the Demerara River. One in Georgetown and one in Linden, right? So, and then later on, of course, we're going to have a new bridge across the Berbice River.
Yes.
And then we are also talking with international partners in Suriname about a bridge across the Quarantine River.
Correct.
But definitely with those completion of those internal bridges, the Berbice and the two across the Demerara River, we're going to abolish. And abolish is a big word, meaning free. Free from paying any rates, right, or any toll. So we abolishing tolls.
Yes.
So Guyanese people, right, will be able to cross all those bridges, right, without paying any toll on completion of those bridges. No toll, right? There's a lot of savings there for people. Dr. Vindhya mentioned about the old age pension, right, and the fact that it's now 41,000. We've doubled it from the time we got into office to now. But I want the Guyanese people to remember, there was a government in this country from 2015 to 2020 that promised to do the same thing. They failed to do it. We got back in office and we started the process, and there's been an increase every year as the economy grow, right? The money paid to old age pensioners also grow over time. It grew over time. And today, we announced in this budget that it is now double what we reached there. Public assistance, we talk about public assistance already. Health checkup. We have in this budget made $10,000 available. Every Guyanese have a voucher of $10,000 available for them to go and do a medical checkup. If you had to do a medical checkup before now, you had to find all the money. Here is a government providing $10,000. Of course, you find a difference, but this itself is an encouragement. Many people who failed or keep putting off doing their medical checkups now that you have a 10,000 voucher, that itself will motivate them, right, to get that medical checkup done. You just have to find the additional money. We talk about the newborn babies and $100,000, right? You come into the world as a newborn baby, you have $100,000 for your parents to spend on you. NIS, a big one. We have many people in Guyana who failed to make the 750 plus contribution, right? And these people got nothing, right? Here is a government, right, to spend some time thinking about this, brainstorming this whole idea, and we came up with a position that we presented to the people today. Everybody who got contributions from 500 to 749, remember 750, you had to get 750 and above to qualify for NIS. And I can tell you what, I get in NIS, I joined NIS, right? I reached 60 and I got my NIS because I had my 750 and above contribution. So many of my comrades who were over 60, right, 60 and above, who unfortunately didn't qualify, they now will get a one-off payment. So here's the government is saying that, look, yes, you didn't qualify based on your contributions, but we are a caring government. We know you are at that age where you need some money to do a few things, you know, right, in life, and we are giving you this money. We are providing this money in our budget to you, right, even though you didn't qualify. And of course, it will come in handy for a lot of people. And then, of course, when they reach 65, they get their old age pension, which has no means test The only thing qualification is 65, right? So you have something to work with until you reach 65, sorry, right? We talk about the business community, how they benefit. If you're a businessman and you have a generator, you want to import a generator, we remove the taxes. So yes, we have electricity, but you may have a generator because you want to have continuous power in case there are any power outages for whatever reason. You could bring a generator in country, right? You may be off grid. It may not even be a case of power outage. You may be operating off grid, and therefore you need a generator. You need to self-generate. You could buy a generator, and you don't have to pay any taxes on it, right? We remove the taxes, right? The poultry farmers, many of the equipment, many of the stuff that they use, right, for the poultry production, we've removed the taxes, all those chemicals and other medications and so, right? Remove those taxes, right? University.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Free university. I want to tell you more, free technical education too. So if you go into GTI, NATI or wherever, or Linden Technical Institute, and there's any fee attached there, you don't have to pay it anymore.
And the write-off of the loan.
And the write-off of the loan. So all those people,
Didn't happen
It's a
in my
win-win,
days.
right?
it's a win-win, yeah. So all those Guyanese
in my
who
days.
would have paid over the years, they could come now, and they could get everything right off, right? And we want to encourage people to come forward. In the budget speech, they mentioned about 2,000 persons so far came forward and apply, right, for the loans to be written off.
Yeah.
But we want to encourage more Guyanese to come forward and do the same thing, because it is your right by virtue of being a Guyanese and being the fact that you would have went to University of Guyana, you paid to go to University of Guyana, that was an opportunity to write off your loans.
That is
And-
awesome, because I was once listed to not travel out of the country because I didn't pay all of my university fees. Yes.
Well, go
And
ahead
my
and get
parents were panicking.
Get it written
And
off.
That is many,
Right
many
off.
moons ago.
Yeah, go and do
so
it.
this is commendable. This is a laudable initiative of this government.
Another big one is the encouragement to work and to work longer hours, right? If you're working overtime, we've said the first $60,000 from your overtime pay is tax-free. And we're even encouraging Guyanese now who want to do a second job, right? And they said the first $50,000 from that second job is tax-free.
Tax-free.
Right? So we now have a lot of people out there who, instead of, 8 hours work and then they go home for another 8 hours rest or whatever, they may have to work an extra 4 hours, right? They benefit from these tax relief that is associated with overtime work. You have people who, because of their qualifications too, right? They may want to do some additional or another job, a second job, right? They benefit from tax write-off from that second job
Prime Minister,
too.
before you go further, I'm enjoying the fact that you're outlining and breaking down all the benefits in terms of the measures. Many critics will say, because elections is just around the corner, this is an election budget. What would be both of you, your responses to that comment or accusation or feeling by the critics that it's a basket of goodies because, we're looking for votes?
This is not a basket of goodies. This is something that has started since 2020. People-centered approach to budgeting and to governance. We went to the people. We crafted a manifesto. We won the elections based on that manifesto, and of course based on vigorous campaigning, right? And having assumed office, we set out in a sustained manner to deliver what was promised to the people. So the new hospitals, the new roads, the new housing schemes,
The new schools.
right? The new schools, right? The new highways, right? These are all promises that were made to the people in our manifesto. And more than that, These were all concerns that were raised by the people when the manifesto was crafted. So here's a case of a government coming into office and having 5 years to deliver on its manifesto. So what we did is apportion it. So much was delivered in year 1, so much in year 2, year 3, year 4, and now we're in year 5. Remember, we promised 50,000 house lots. This is year 5. We already deliver just over 40,000. And trust me, by the end of this financial year, we will deliver 50,000 plus. Even though the target is 50,000, we will deliver 50,000 plus, because that's the nature of our game, right? We meet and we exceed the expectation of the people. 4,000 roads already completed or near completion in many of the villages throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. And this is not along the coastline alone. You go into the interior, Carasabai, you go to St. Ignatius, you go to many communities in Region 8, Region 9, right? Region 7, roads are under construction. Yesterday I was in Sierra Johanna, right? They're gonna get roads, right? Additional roads before the end of this year. The drainage, right? People asking for the drainage to clear because, you know, during the rainy season, the area is flooded. We are doing that. So we have several major projects, and we're not talking here about the big ones like the Hope Light Canal, which is announced in the budget, in the community where people live. Some people in the 50s, and there was a Orton Road. They've never seen a concrete road or a bitumen road. That is happening now. And you want me to tell you more? They're involved in the construction. We have this thing we call community road projects. Many people from the community, right? They have the contract. We broke it up into small, you know, portions, right? A little 10 million or 15 million. And people have that part and they build that part. And then somebody else build the other part. At the end of the day, what we have is a whole series of collaboration and cooperation, right? And the road is completed to the satisfaction of the people in the community, and they earn money too. I went into Buxton in 2021, I think it was. Dr. Vindhya was in Buxton with me. I get up on a day and I said, look, I'm going into Buxton. And I asked a set of ministers, and we ended up with like about 7 ministers in Buxton. And the detractors, you know, from the opposition, they told the people not to turn up at the meeting. We went there, we had a standing crowd. We had seats for everybody. People were told not to come to this meeting. People came and they explained to us their situation. They shared their concern with us. They told us about all these roads and these drainage and everything that they keep talking over and over, including to the previous government. Because they were in power for 5 years. And a lot of promises. And they hope that we didn't come to make a promise to them again. The president went in there recently.
Yes, he did.
And the people were hugging him up, thanking him, congratulating him and his ministers, because they now have roads in the community. He went into Melanie. We went into Melanie. 2 weeks after we went into Buxton, we went into Melanie. Same thing, roads, right? Drainage, we deliver. The president went into Melanie also last week. And you know what happened in Melanie.
Yes.
In addition to thanking him, there are people who came out and were vocal. And they told him, you have another 5 years in office. Right? What we have done is started a project. We have started a revolution. Right? Mm-hmm. That is people-centered. Where the people are not only seeing development, they're feeling the development.
I want to come back to
They're
that
feeling the
revolution
development.
and social cohesion.
And this is not going to
concern with you.
change. We have to go with this flow now and continue delivering the goods and services that are demanded by the people, that are identified by the people on our Meet the People outreaches. Only yesterday I was in Laluni and Sierra Johanna. And again, concerns raised, and we've been truthful to the people. Some of these things will be done in this year. Some cannot be done in this year. The next development cycle, and that's a subject that I introduced. The next development cycle, because I see this as a 5-year development cycle that we're closing off with this 2025 budget, and there will be a next development cycle going on to 2030. And we will be going back to the drawing board. We will be crafting some more policies, some more programs, of course with the input of the people. It will become the second manifesto, the 2025 election manifesto, and I'm assured that the people having enjoyed, having experienced the development that we have delivered in a sustained manner over the last 5 years to now, the people will want more development. And who will they turn to provide that out of 5 years of development? They will turn to us because we have delivered.
Yeah. I want to come back to talk about social cohesion, embracing diversity, and all of those things you mentioned. But I want to first hear from Dr. Vindhya on the basket of goodies, your response to that concern, criticism by opposing forces. Yeah.
I think people are living with us, walking with us, and experiencing with us as we deliver. And we have started in a very measured way. We never came out and we just were overly spectacular in what we did. Consistently, every year. Because I remember well, when we sit in the National Assembly, the criticism, only this, but we were very measured in what we were doing. We were able to do what we could do at the time that we could do it. And so we built each time. And so this budget is not a basket of goodies. It's simply following a path that we started from the very beginning of our entry into government. And we have been very, very careful at all times to be on the ground. This cabinet, this president, we have been out there. No one is sitting in their office all week. Every single minister is out there understanding the concerns, looking at the irritants that people may have in their day-to-day life, dealing with those, looking at it from a macro level, looking at it from a policy, programmatic level, and ensuring that whatever we do, it really directly touches somebody's life in a very practical way, in a meaningful way. So to say that it's an elections gimmick is to be very short-sighted. And I think when you look at the response that we have been getting on the ground from people, it is not only coming out and saying thank you, they're asking how can we be part of this. They're joining in this whole developmental walk. And what Prime Minister said about community-led projects would have been the signature of the government, from young people being involved in their own projects like block making. We've seen that in Region 9, to the shade house projects that young people again are leading, to the women-owned projects that women are delivering on. So it's really going into the communities and involving people, letting them see the vision, letting them feel it, and letting them be a part of it. So people now will look at us and say, this is what we think that we need in our community, and the government has been saying, this is what you need, here's how we think we would like to do it, what do you think? And there has been that level of engagement with people, constant discussion with people, whether you speak of the private sector, whether you speak of people in the community, whether you speak of the people who are mining, when you speak of people in the hinterland. If you look at the low carbon development strategy, which is the overarching strategy that governs what we do, it is benefiting everyone, and it has that kind of multi-pronged approach. And so like when you look at what is happening in the hinterland, for example, and how the Amerindian population has their own say about their own finances. That doesn't
Yes.
happen anywhere else in the world.
Yes.
That has not happened
Yes.
anywhere else in the world. And that is where I think as a government we are ensuring that what we do is just not an imposition. It is something that is so all embracing and comes back to what you've been asking us all the time, people centered.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
yeah.
I've went, just like Dr. Bindi, all over this country, all along the coastland and in the hinterland. And we, starting again in August 2020, we have been delivering goods and services to the people. In the hinterland, some of the big things, big issues raised by the people is this whole issue of digital divide. We've invested over 1 billion Guyana dollars. We've purchased the low Earth orbiting devices, right? Popularly called the Starlink devices. And we went village by village by village. And we're at a stage now where we had 253 villages, and we've already installed in 238 villages at least one Starlink device where they can, connect to the internet, connect to what is happening in Guyana, right? Be integrated with what is happening in Guyana,
Yeah.
and also connect to the world, know what's happening in the world. So telemedicine,
Yeah.
gold scholarship,
Correct.
right? It's not for the people on the coast alone. The people in the hinterland can now benefit from all these platforms that we're putting in place for them to benefit from. We've purchased the household solar systems, 30,000 families, mainly in the hinterland and in the riverine areas, right? We've issued it out. That is a popular program, right? When you go into some of those communities, after sundown, it used to be just pitch black or dark, just a few people who could have afforded a generator. Now, almost everybody have some form of lighting, right? And they can charge their phones. The children can do their homework with light, right? And the little cottage industry or sewing or processing some food material or whatever that the women will normally do, they can have extra hours of work, right? That is what is happening in the hinterland, right? It's not just infrastructure, but also the household is benefiting from our policies. Then you have the community solar systems, which is another set of solar project where we hook up the hospitals or health centers, the police station, the administrative offices, the schools, learning resource center, where the community could gather. These are some of the changes that is happening in the hinterland. These are some of the changes that the opposition talk about, but fail to deliver. And I always bring up this story. When I was campaigning, and with my phone, every time I go to every community and they claim that I had Wi-Fi, I try to connect. And my phone, for the time, if I spend 2 hours there, when I leave, it still got connecting. Now when I go to communities after we would have, implemented this project, you can see you're connected and you're seeing 200, 300. Those are the megabytes per second. Those are the figures that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Strong connection. You could download, you could read all the data that you want. You could do your gold scholarship. I went to a community in region 2, right? And there was this lady who was telling me that, she's doing her master's. She works at the health center, but she signed up and she's doing her master's. Thanking us for the ICT connection, right? These are some of the testimonies, that we get from people in the hinterland, right? They're now experiencing what we call bridging the development divide. The services provided by government is reaching them. And more with digitalization, more services as we design most of these services and start delivering them digitally, it will reach the people, right? The whole issue of e-governance will become a reality where people can be in the hinterland and they could request certain services, right? They can apply for a birth certificate. They could apply for their passport, you know, by in some remote area and fill in the forms and just send it to town. This is where we want to go with digitalization.
Yeah, thank you very much. Minister and Prime Minister, I want to go back to social cohesion. For someone that is an Afro-Guyanese, you will be seen, and we know about the most recent incident in Melanie, where someone declared his support for the president, and of course he was vilified because of his constitutional right to associate. And you being someone of African descent, you will be seen as a traitor, a soup drinker, and all the names turncoat. How do you feel sitting in a government with a president who speaks almost every day about social cohesion? He speaks to embracing diversity. How do you feel? And do you feel anywhere funny in terms of decision making? Do you feel like you're just window dressing, or you feel empowered as an Afro-Guyanese that is intelligent? How do you feel?
Well, I am part and parcel of decision making and everything that happens in this government. I'm accustomed to be addressed by all the terms that you mentioned. Window dressing, traitor. You know, Guyanese, they don't say traitor, they say traitor. You know, all these fancy terms, you know. But I can tell you, I work for a president who practices what he preaches every day. He designed this concept of one Guyana, and we have embraced one Guyana. Development for all the people of Guyana, regardless of race, regardless of political affiliation, right? And we have been implementing our programs and our projects based on that guideline from His Excellency, the one Guyana concept. You go to the length and breadth of Guyana, Kokwani, Aichuni. I went to Aichuni recently, and the people are thanking us. And they asked me to thank the president because they say everything that they asked for, this government for, they're getting. They asked for roads, they got roads. They asked for improvement in the electricity, right? We bought new generators. We didn't say this is a PNC support area or PNC stronghold, and therefore we're not going to spend any money there, right? We live up to what we said to the people, development for all the people. And I can attest to that because I am living that every day. What is important in this country is how you lead. If you lead for all the people, regardless of the detractors, eventually the message and people will see from your action that you're leading for all of that. And that is the social cohesion that we will achieve once we get up every day and we lead with all the people in mind. Kokwani, Linden, we're building a new bridge in Linden. And you will hear all kind of fancy things. Oh, that's our idea. Yes, it was your idea, but you never deliver. You never deliver. Linden Soesdijk Highway, right? If you, as you said, Linden is your stronghold. When you got into office in 2015, if I were the president, when I got into office in 2015, one of the first projects for me would have been repairing and building the highway. 2015 to 2020, nothing was done on the highway. Who is doing it? The PPPC government. We got into office, right? We built the Heroes Highway. We're repairing and building a new road from Georgetown to right up to Barbies, right? Region 5, Region 6. And we also building the Linden Soesdijk Highway. We building the road to Mabura, right? We didn't stop to say, well, this is PNC area, you know, and this is our area. We have a policy, right, where we look in a holistic manner and design programs and projects to bring development to all the people of Guyana.
And in the same vein, Minister, you can say the same thing because your ministry deal with diverse groups. Share some experiences, not identifying the persons, but I know you would have helped a lot of people in terms of their situations.
I think the name of the ministry says it all, human services.
Yes.
So we serve everyone, irrespective of their political affiliation, gender, ethnicity, religion. People come, and the policy of this government is to solve and resolve whatever issues they have. And we do it every day. Could be someone comes to us for help with burial, someone comes to us for a wheelchair, someone comes to us for something to help to start their business. It's all day, every day. And if you look at the policies of the PPPC government, they're very inclusive policies. We did not say in any one of the policies, the suite of measures, let's say Minister Singh spoke about tonight, that is only for one group. These suite of measures for the whole country. And that is what says more than anything else could say who we are and what we are about. It is not having ideas that our friends on the opposite side of the house seem to have a lot of ideas, or none at all, whichever way you look at it, but it's the actual delivery. And it's the delivery in a very inclusive, accessible way. Everyone would like to take credit, but if the people look at what we've been doing from start to finish, we don't start and we stop at some point and we say, well, we're not going to finish this because of, from start to finish. And you look at every project we have done, those projects have touched from the hinterland to the coastland. Those projects would have touched every age group. And we keep on ensuring that even the most vulnerable of people benefit. And if you look at the stats, I know this is not really where we want to go into all that detail. Look at the persons who are now the maximum number of homeowners. Women. More than 70% of the homeowners in this country, women, PPPC. If you look at the persons accessing the Gold Scholarship, we speak of gender equality. We speak of narrowing the gender divide. Women, majority of women are benefiting from the Gold Scholarships. If you look at a number of the initiatives, young people populate every aspect of our governmental programs. And so one just has to objectively look at what we are doing, and they will see that it is not for any one particular group, but it's for everyone. Even if you look at the development of the business community, now more and more people are involved in developing businesses. Whether you look at micro business or you look at medium scale businesses, more and more people are getting involved in a diverse slew of business opportunities that exist, because this government believes in the involvement of people, whether it is service delivery or it is through the private sector. How do we get every Guyanese to be involved in where our country is going? And our country has been mentioned time and time again with the label the fastest developing economy, and I think Dr. Singh very clearly spoke to that tonight, how much we have developed. But it's not only looking at it as a statistic, it is looking at it, let me say from my end, from a very humane perspective, where you actually see a person coming and you see the transformation in their lives. And I remember when the WIN program started, I've gone to so many communities, Sophia, for example. We've trained 50 women at one go, went into the community, expressed an interest. We didn't just say, okay, we'll get to you. It was done. And now those women will be able to start their own garment construction hub. They will be able to do the training themselves, and there's a ripple effect. You go into a place like Cane Grove, for example, you have the same conversation, you will get back, you get it done. You go into Region 9, you have the same conversation, and the program again materializes. So it's not just saying that you will, it is actually ensuring that people see that you do it. And I believe that because we keep touching populations of people all across the country, they are able to come back to us with their expectations a lot higher. People are not asking us for basic things now. People are wanting that improvement because they see we no longer people coming to us only for the small things. People want the bigger things,
bigger
as
things
they
now, yeah.
should.
Yeah.
And it simply means that the government has given them reason to have that expectation by coming in 2020, by losing nearly 2 years through COVID, through all the crises, the global crises, the geopolitical tension, all those things. We didn't come in at a time when it was an easy walk in the park to just deliver services. We had to deliver everything from education. There was no educational program for any child in any school to say, well, how is education going to be delivered? But education was delivered when children were still at home. We had to look at ingenious ways to deliver health care. We had to think of how do you get the pensioner to still have his or her benefit. You use the WhatsApp, you have the life service. So there were many creative ways we had to utilize in those early days to ensure that we were able to deliver, to be able to get to this point before the elections. Yes, we're heading to the election, to say, look, we have had this time with you, and we have continuously been working round the clock and coming up with all these ways that we can say to you through a manifesto. We sat down, and we didn't only sit down among ourselves, we sat down with you to ask you what you wanted. And then in asking you what you wanted, we set out on a very, very, I would say, strategic path to make sure that we deliver to you what you asked for. And because we believe in exceeding your expectations, we have done it in so many different areas
And
for all the
Minister,
people.
on that, sorry, Prime Minister, on that note as we wrap, I would love to get both of you, your perspective in terms of how the youth should view your government's performance. How will you sell your government to the youth?
Well, the youth, I think the youth are already sold in terms of they're the ones who are benefiting from what we're doing now. You start from birth, $100,000 at birth. You get into school through nursery school, primary school, secondary school. You have the Because We Care every year to help your parents and help you to get your education. University, technical colleges, free in Guyana now. So education from nursery to university is free. And that is a youth-centric policy. You have no excuse as a youth now to complete your education in Guyana. It is free. You're 18 years old, you have $100,000 cash grant. Job opportunities and opportunities to training for role. If you want to work in the mining sector, you want to work in the construction sector, right? There's so many opportunities that are being made available to youth, not only in Georgetown, but in every community throughout Guyana, to have an opportunity to develop a skill that could earn a living for them. And also job placement, right? We have, through the Ministry of Labor,
Yeah.
where we could, we now have a platform where, you could submit your names and they can place you, do job placements and help you to get jobs in Guyana. The reality of Guyana today is that it's not just the economic growth, and we're the fastest growing economy. We have a government that is utilizing the revenue to improve the life and livelihood of the people. So with all the roads that we're building, right, all the schools that we're building, all the hospitals that we're building, and you name it, right, the hotels, everything, all of these projects create jobs for the youths. Is the youths have to come forward and take those jobs, right? It's not just during the construction phase. When we finish with the hospital, you have to staff the hospital. Where will the nurses come from? Where will the other management-related workers to keep a hospital going, to keep a school going, the teachers, the hotels, right? The people who work in hotels. It's the young people of Guyana. This is a glorious time to be a young person in Guyana. There's so many opportunities for skills development, right? For your professional development. What I would say to the youth of Guyana, stay focused. If you're in school, finish your education. If you're in university, finish university. If you're out there young and looking for a job, go to the nearest job placement opportunity and get an opportunity to find a job, right? There's so many things happening around you. And you don't have to have any skill. If you don't have a skill, we have many centers now where you could just walk in, register, and right away they will teach you to do whatever you want to do to make a living in this life. So now is a good time to be a young person in Guyana.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Minister?
To add to what Prime Minister said, I think one of the signature things that this government would have done would be the involvement of young people in leadership and decision making, starting from His Excellency, members of the cabinet, members of parliament, members in the leadership of communities and all of the agencies. So many young people are there, and they're there as part of decision making. So that, in a way, tells every young person out there, this government wants you on board to be a part of your own future, to be a part of your now. And that is an important thing. And that's why I think every young person who's listening, they shouldn't wait. Get on board and be a part of where we are going and be a part of what they want to see for themselves. So because if they do this now, they are actually paving the way for future generations. Secondly, in terms of building their capacity through the many ways Prime Minister spoke about, there is also that big emphasis on things like ICT, artificial intelligence, STEM, all of the things that globally would be in demand, all of the things that we need for our own development in that way to bridge the divide between the developed and the developing. And there's so many different partnerships that would have come about with global agencies, international entities, and even local entities to furnish young people, starting from the school age. We don't wait to tell children, well, oh, when you head to university, then you deal with STEM, or then you learn about coding, no, you started now, because you're preparing for the world of not only today, the world of 20 years from now. So that is the level of attention that is being paid to young people. And then, of course, the president has a youth group that is a part of who he would listen to and consult. And that is really where all the young professionals, all the very fertile, creative minds, innovative minds, they have an opportunity to liaise with the president of a country. Very few places in this world, young people have a direct audience with a president or ministers of government. That happens routinely. And it is, I think, to their credit that so many young people are a part of the government's machinery in terms of delivering services to the people of Guyana. If you go to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, young doctors, they would have benefited from a slew of programs done by this government. You look at oil and gas and who comes out of the University of Guyana, you are impressed. You look at the hinterland. I went to the Miss Amerindian Heritage Pageant, and when the young people stepped on stage, they were all professionals, or they were all pursuing something. And it means too that they're not just doing it and staying here, they're going back at home. And that's where we're seeing what we want to see, the ripple effect of young people absorbing all of this, taking all the opportunity and going out back to every nook and corner of this country and being part of development. Because for us to achieve all we want to achieve, it cannot be one set of people. It has to be everybody. And when we speak of Guyana, all of us contribute to what we want to see for our lovely land.
And you know, I'm happy that you mentioned when you go to some of the Amerindian communities. When I go to many of the Amerindian communities now, who I reach as a two-show?
Women.
Somewhat women and young men.
Young men.
People in their 20s and 30s. So the youths in Guyana, they're stepping up to the plate. They're taking active role in leadership position, not only in the Armenian villages, but in the neighborhood democratic councils. Many of the people who elected to the NDCs is no longer older folks. Right? The young people are coming forward, the teachers, the nurses, the clerks who live in the community. They are now coming forward and present themselves to be elected so they can make a change in their community. that augurs well for Guyana, right? So at all levels, we have a lot of youths are coming forward, and we want to call upon all the other youths are out there to come forward and play a meaningful role in the development of your community, you know. And in terms of politics and political involvement, it can start right there at the grassroots level, and who knows, right? In a 20 years' time, one of them may be a minister, right? Or 10 years' time, a minister, a future prime minister, a future president. As Dr. Vindhya mentioned, our president is still considered a youth as far as I'm concerned, right? So in terms of the promotion of youth and the development of youth in our society, right? This is the time and this is the country, Guyana.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and thank you very much, Dr. Vindhya. As we bring this evening's discussion to a close, it is evident that the 2025 budget represents development and opportunities. With the largest budget in Guyana's history, the government has laid out an ambitious plan to transform the nation and uplift the lives of our Guyanese. With great opportunity comes great responsibilities. It will require collaboration, accountability, and continuous dialogue between the government, civil society, and the people. A heartfelt thank you again to both you, the Prime Minister, and Dr. Vindhya, for sharing your insights with us this evening.
And thank you for having me in the program, Mark.
Thank you so very much for having us here this evening.
Thank you.